Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Enneagram Type 1. And Jenny's going to be introducing that in just a second, but I want to remind you that the Enneagram sometimes shows us our shadow areas or areas that we want to improve upon. So it's not always endearing hearing about our type. So if you're hearing the Type 1 and you're like, I tested as a 1, but I don't feel like that's me, it's something to work on maybe. So Jenny, why don't you tell us a little bit about Enneagram Type 1?
Yeah, I actually remember when we both took our Enneagram test, I argued with my type pretty adamantly. I wasn't sure I liked my type. You did too.
I did too, yeah.
It took us about a year to be like, okay, I guess this is where we're at. So, but neither of us are ones. So
No.
The 1 is really an interesting personality type. So the 1s are known as the perfectionist or the reformer, depending on what literature you're reading. Both fit pretty well with that personality type, with our Type 1s. At their best, they can be very detail-oriented,
Yes.
hardworking. We actually have some 1s on our staff at work, and I am never checking up on them. They do a wonderful job with just sticking to the task, doing what it needs to be done within that time frame. So I'm really grateful for 1s in that capacity. They also can be very self-disciplined. They're very thoughtful. They're the people that always remember, oh, I have an appointment on this day, I have to schedule an annual exam, all of these things. They're always thinking ahead and planning ahead and are pretty organized in their brains.
Yes.
I don't know of a single one that's not hardworking. So these people can sometimes be therapists or teachers, people that are in not always people-oriented roles with their careers, but hardworking nonetheless. In the difficult times, when we have a lot of shadow areas popping up as 1s, they can be seen as critical and sometimes judgmental. Now remember, when we're talking about where we're struggling with the Enneagram or those character traits that we don't always want to admit, it comes from somewhere. So we're reacting to our environment, we're reacting to a deep-seated wound, maybe trauma we've experienced. So this isn't necessarily who we are, it's just kind of a behavioral response. So these people can be very hard on themselves. I have lots of 1s that are popping up in my mind right now about, you're doing a great job, you're doing a great job. They kind of need that extra level of affirmation, and they can tend to be a little bit rigid and sometimes even become resentful if they feel like other people aren't working as hard as they are.
Right, yeah. In ministry, 1s are really good at keeping on task and being organized and following instructions, but that rigidity can also lead to conflict a lot of times if things are not going exactly the way that they thought they were going to go to.
Yeah, and so we all, as we walk through this sermon series, you guys will see that we all have core or deadly sins, which I'm not sure if I love that terminology, but that's a lot of the books that are being used say that. And it's just basically like why we react to our environment comes from the lens of what our deadly sin is.
Right.
And anger is really rooted in the Type 1s. And we can see that when they get frustrated that people aren't as working as hard as they are in their perception of it, or people are letting them down. Anger and irritability can be a pretty quick reaction on that. What the work of the 1 is to put that shield down. So a lot of it comes from insecurity. It comes from feeling like they're going to be rejected, always worried about making a mistake. So what 1s can do to grow and find their growth is to be able to admit when their shields are up, to identify the source of that, and really work to disarm themselves.
Perfect. Great.
So we love our 1s. They're wonderful. We need them. Just got to work on that shield piece of it.